with skirmish season coming to an end, I want to talk about some of the decks that I tried to build in order to kind of fight the format. Uh, I haven't really taken Blitz seriously as a format before this. As far as deck building and testing goes, I'd always just kind of played Dawnblade Dory, which has some kind of unique strengths in Blitz, and hoped. But in this format, Verdance was pretty clearly the best deck. I think Verdance was the best deck since release, and because Blitz isn't really a format, nobody really cared or knew. But I had a Verdance player locally who just crushed me pretty early on. And Dawnblade Dory is unwinnable into Verdance, so I had to figure out some different strategies. And traditionally, the way you beat Wizard is Illusionist. So I was interested in building Illusionist, but let's just start out talking about Blitz. Blitz right now, Verdance is pretty clearly best deck. If you have a 0% chance against Verdance, you're not going to win the tournament. And even though Aurora isn't the best deck, and I don't even think she's like a top 3 deck in the format, she will be the most popular hero in Blitz just because of the first strike deck, because new players like the ease of play of Verdance, and Blitz is more of a new player format. Everybody in the room is going to be playing Aurora, so if you are playing Blitz, you should probably be playing a deck that beats Verdance and Aurora. So going into it, I pretty clearly knew what I wanted to be playing, which was Prism. And I had a pretty unique take on Prism. Did I do well with Prism in the skirmish season? Not really. I only went to one skirmish with it. But I do think that the Prism deck that I built kind of asks questions of the format and really takes advantage of the fact that they're not designing cards around these powerful cards that are legal in Blitz and the Living Legend format. So let's just take a look at my deck. This was the deck that I brought to the Blitz skirmish that I went to. You can see some pretty clear, strange things happening here. So let's just, talk about the elephant in the room, dual threat. This card says if you've attacked with a weapon this turn, the next attack action card you play this turn gets +3. And if you've attacked with an attack action card this turn, your next weapon attack this turn gets +3. This is a card that I've been playing in Ira, and it's really strong. It's a 0 for 6. And in Prism, you might think, oh, it's kind of hard to trigger, but all of my Illusionist auras are weapons. So what does this mean? Well, it means I can take advantage of the 1-cost attacks to play the following turn. Pitch a yellow for a 1-cost attack. It hits, goes to Soul. I activate Prism's hero ability for free because of Empyrean Rapture. Prism's hero ability makes a Spectral Shield. We attack with a Spectral Shield for 1. Then we play Dual Threat. We've attacked with a weapon and with an attack. We activate Calming Gesture with our 1 floating. We attack with the shield from Calming Gesture, which will be for 4 because of the dual threat. And then we play some other attack. Snatch is pretty good when it's for 7. And it draws a card in our deck, and all of the cards in our deck are playable off of Snatch, except for exactly Celestial Cataclysm. This play is incredibly strong. If you ever do this in a game, you will win, as long as they don't pop like both the things that you play. Which is the reason why I think this deck beats Aurora. Because if you go second into Aurora, you will probably win just because of the tempo. And if you go first, you can set up a dual threat combo, which will deal so much damage that they'll be out of the game. So just looking at this deck, there's a couple choices that we're making that other Prisms might not be making. We're playing as many 1-costs as possible. So we have the Symbiosis, Metamorph, and 9 War Tunes. And then we're not playing too many other Heralds, because the Heralds, they're fine, but they're not like really good, and we are kind of trying to set up around this dual threat. One of the ones that I think is really important right now is Herald of Judgment. This card says when this hits, put into your hero's soul, and the defending hero can't play cards from their banish zone during the next action phase. This is Zen tech, basically. And it's free Zen tech that if we played against Zen, we oftentimes will just win the turn cycle. We play Haze Bending because when you play Haze Bending and Arsenal dual threat, you're guaranteed to be able to play the dual threat as long as the Herald hits. And we also play Pierce Reality because that's the strongest blue aura. We play Restless Coalescence in the main. This card is just a 1-card 3 at base. Blocking 2 off the ward is pretty strong as well. But we are playing Restless Coalescence as well because it's part of our game plan against decks that have a lot of poppers. So there are some decks in the format like Guardian, Brute that are going to be able to pop every Herald you send. So in those matchups, we take out our Heralds and our Phantasm cards, and we play a combo of Restless Coalescence and Spectral Manifestations. So the turn that you have both of these cards, you're gonna set up the game so that you arsenal Restless Coalescence. Then we're gonna draw Spectral Manifestations, and we're basically just blocking for the rest of the game. You play the Spectral Manifestations with no other Illusionist auras. You put 3 counters on it. You attack for 4 go again because you pitched a yellow. You play Restless Coalescence from Arsenal. It attacks for 4 go again. Then you remove a counter, attack with a shield, attack for 1. So just on base, that's a 3-card 9 damage plus 1 shield, a second shield, and 2 ward from the Coalescence. So it's a 3-card 13, but if you go into your next turn and your opponent can't clear, you get to attack with Coalescence for free, or you get to keep making shields. Maybe you pitch a yellow to your hero ability, and now it's over. They lose the game on the spot if they're a Guardian. If they're a Brute, they can still win because they can draw Bloodrush Bellows and attempt to break your board, but Guardian just cannot win after you resolve Spectral Manifestations into Restless Coalescence. This was really good because a lot of the sideboard space in Prism decks has been taken up by these 4-cost yellow Spectra cards that really are not super good in Blitz because it takes a lot of time to set them up. Now, if you can set them up, they're basically winning the game by themselves, even if you have just one. But setting them up was really hard because sometimes you just died. So instead of having to play those bad cards, the yellow Spectra cards like Merciful Retribution, we get to just play Restless Coalescence and 2 cards in the sideboard. And we get to always beat Guardian and have a chance into Brute. Now, Brute is probably our hardest matchup. Specifically, Leviah, I think, is quite hard. I think KO, because he plays less poppers, is significantly easier than Leviah. But Leviah has a ton of poppers, so we're forced into a weird game plan. And that's where I came up with the next card that I think was really interesting in the format, which is Essence of Ancestry Body. This card is incredibly strong. It's a 0-cost aura that says when this leaves the arena, if you control no illusionist auras, the next time you would be dealt damage by a red source this turn, prevent it. So what this means is against a Leviah's Bloodrush Bellows turn, if we have an Essence of Ancestry Body on the field, this thing is going to be blocking 8 or 10. It's going to be blocking 1,000,000 damage, and in my opinion, I don't have too much testing into Leviah, but I think we can just fatigue Leviah basically with these 2 Essence of Ancestry Bodies in our deck. That card is also just crazy into a lot of decks in the format. It's good into Wizard, it's good into Guardian, it's good into Aurora. It's just good into everything, basically. So we're playing them right now. One cool thing about the dual threat combo is that Herald of Protection makes it so that you don't need to use your arm piece if it hits. It just makes 2 Spectral Shields by itself, which just turns on dual threat instantly. That's enough about the OG Prism dual threat deck. I think this deck is really good. And, you know, I didn't do particularly well with it, but I think there's ideas here that you can really build on. Like, maybe Snatch is a bad card and Standing Order are bad cards, but I think Dual Threat and Essence of Ancestry Body are really good cards. And the Restless Coalescence Spectral Manifestations combo is just enough to win against Guardian. So those were the main takeaways from my testing with Prism, but I wanted to provide you with an alternative, which is New Prism. I think New Prism is just as good, maybe better than Old Prism. And there's a couple reasons for that. I think New Prism is significantly better against Wizard than Old Prism is. You know, regular Prism is pretty good against Wizard, but Verdance does run quite a few poppers, so you might run into some issues where you like attack with Herald, it gets popped, they just get more value on you than you can on them, and then you lose the game. Whereas Prism Advent of Thrones, Verdance just like can't ever deal damage to you. and so you just get to kill her. The deck is extremely similar. We play 4 Figments in this format. I think 4 is all you need in order to win against basically any deck. These are the ones I would play. I don't think Erudition is actually very good in Blitz just because we are playing the old Luminaris, which does not interact with the flip side of Erudition because it's a Light Angel ally. It is not Illusionist. Protection is pretty clearly the best. When it enters the battlefield, you just get a shield, so it's 2 damage by itself, or 2 value by itself. And then if you flip an attack with it, it makes 2 more shields with the 4 value. Yeah, so protection is insanely good. And it allows us to do the same combo as before with our headpiece. So you can attack with a 1 cost and then activate Halo to put a Herald into your soul and draw a card. And then you go get Figment of Protection, which makes a shield, and then attack with the shield. And then after you've attacked with the shield, then you get to make a shield from your hero ability, play dual threat, attack with that, and then attack with another attack. I don't know if that's necessarily better than what Old Prism is doing, but theoretically, you can keep your Arcane Barrier around and still use Halo to combo with dual threat. There's also some more interesting combos with Essence of Ancestry Body. When you are playing against something like Guardian and you're kind of scrapping a little bit, or anything that wants to play one big attack, if you play an Essence of Ancestry Body against them, and then activate the headpiece and find Ravages, and ping yourself, if the Essence of Ancestry Body is the only Illusionist aura on the battlefield, it'll just prevent all the damage from their red source. Like, you know, let's say they go like Spinal Pummel, and you pop your Essence of Ancestry Body in response. You get to win the game because you prevented 10 off it, and then you get to flip your Ravages and then attack with Ravages for 4+2 Arcane, and then attack again for 4+2 Arcane. It's just incredibly strong. We also have that same Restless Coalescence Spectral Manifestations combo. So I think like we're never losing to the slow decks. And then against the fast decks, this deck might be able to snowball even better than the other Prism, while still having that same potential with dual threat. So I think both these Prism lists are really strong, and in my opinion, if I were going to like a Blitz Battle Hardened, I would for sure be playing a version of Prism, one of the Light Illusionists. Now I think there's a lot of other interesting decks in Blitz right now that I want to talk about that I don't necessarily have complete deck lists for. So we discussed earlier that I think Verdance is clearly the best deck in the format, and Aurora will be the most played deck at basically every event. So you're looking for decks that can beat both, and one deck that didn't get too many wins, it got 2 wins, that I think is extremely good in the format is actually Dash Database. Neither Aurora or Verdance will kill you turn 1. And so if you go into the game and you are able to go first, I think you, as Dash Database, will just deal 25 damage on your second turn no matter what. It's so... unless you just straight up brick on all items or something, it's so difficult to brick with this deck now with the new armor from the Armory deck and the Processor, and you just deal so much damage. You get to resolve Max V off basically any hand you draw it. I think Dash Database is actually pretty underexplored in the format, and I would test more Dash Database if I had more time. It helps that Dash Database is already good against Wizard and can race the race matchups. I think Acilio is also extremely underrated in Blitz. Acilio got 1 win in a skirmish, and I don't know what that Acilio deck looked like, but I would build Acilio in Blitz as a Stormstriders deck because Stormstriders is the best card in Blitz. And you just kind of play regular Wizard stuff, except you play Volzar. What that means is you just get to play your regular cards, and then at the end, you can send a spell for 5 basically for free off of your Stormstriders. Like, and 5 is the minimum there. I wouldn't lean too hard into sigils or gone in a flash or anything like that. I would just like play what the Verdance deck looks like, but then add some lightning cards in there that are good. Add some 0 for 4s, either offensive or defensive. Try and out-tempo your opponent with some good cards. And then kill your opponent with instants on their turn into a big spell. Wizard is so broken in Blitz that Acilia should have more wins than he does, especially because Volzar is just such a great way to deal unblockable damage. The last hero I want to talk about is Enigma New Moon. I think Enigma New Moon's combo with Phantom Tidemaw, where you just get 10 counters, is so incredibly broken. If you play Phantom Tidemaw and because you get to play so many chi in the format, you can oftentimes like play Tidemaw, get 2 chi, activate your hero ability twice, break 8 ward on the battlefield, and then your illusionist cards get destroyed and you get counters. So you get like 8 counters on this thing, and you can attack with Iris or the 2-cost weapon, and Phantom Tidemaw just attacks for 1,000,000 every turn. I would just fill my deck with a bunch of D-Reacts, block 4s, good blue 3 blocks, and I would just block until I had Tidemaw, and then I would play Tidemaw from my arsenal, flipping chi, and then you just win. I think this deck seems insane in Blitz, and I think it should have more wins than it currently does, because it has none. But I think the deck is really good if people were looking to build around Tidemaw. It is a little bit of a high roll deck because you're blocking until you see a 2 of, and you do play a lot of non-blocks, but the non-blocks themselves are extremely powerful, and even being able to keep around like 1 shield is totally fine because oftentimes they attack for 4 or whatever, or 5 even. So yeah, there's just a bunch of unexplored space with Enigma New Moon, and I think this is another deck that I would test a lot if I was looking to play Blitz in a higher level format. So that's my discussion about Blitz. I think overall Blitz is pretty fun, but not in the actual playing of the games. I think Blitz is really fun to think about and deck build for, just because there's so many interactions that LSS is not building around. I think in CC, a lot of times it's very clear cards are designed to be played with other cards. You build your deck, you put all the cards they've designed together, and the deck is good, and it's about as good as they expect it to be most of the time. In Blitz, shit's off the wall. Things are going crazy. Luminaris is a legal card in the format. Stormstriders is a legal card in the format. Things that were not meant to be together suddenly get to be together. I really think that deck building in Blitz is very fun and creative in a way that it isn't in CC. I do wish that the actual gameplay was a little more interesting, but we'll take what we can get. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about anything I said in this video in the comments, and leave a like if you can.